Hello there folks, welcome to the Tech Prattle, and here we have a Surface Pro 7. To be clear, this is different to the Surface Pro 7 Plus which Microsoft released later down the line and has been in the market for over a year now. Got the inspiration for this video recently. One of my mates asked me for my view on the next laptop he was looking to buy and was including Surface Pro 7 in the list, which made me a bit curious, and I pointed out that Surface Pro 7 is really not a laptop. Turns out he was aware of the fact, and he was just wondering if it's a viable alternative for a laptop user, and that I was acting like a what's the YouTube word here? Obnoxious. And as you do, I swiftly proceeded to blame the entire thing on a misunderstanding due to the bad call quality of the video call we were on. The moral of the story here is it's always the fault of the tool or the apps you're using. It's never ever use. He also had some more questions on the Surface Pro 7 lineup, and the next thing you know, we have this video. And here I will try to answer some of those questions as I go through the device in this video and discuss some finer points. For this video, I've also got the additional keyboard unit, which you pay extra for, obviously. And I cover both as they seem to be the most common bundle people buy. Won't be looking at the software OS or performance or anything like that, as it is the same as you would expect from a machine which is running Windows 10 with this set configuration. So let's start with the build very quickly. As usual, it's all unibody magnesium, which translates into a nice and clean look and gives this a very premium feel. Actually, it's the best premium feeling Windows tablet out there if you think about it. It's a tablet first though, everything else next. I would hesitate to call it 2-in-1 either. It's got its signature kickstand tucked away nicely at the back here, which has a good range of motion and more importantly feels very sturdy, and my first impressions are it's not going loose on you anytime soon and can probably handle some abuse. The other good thing about it is it can stop at any point. Some may call it a bit stiff, but that is probably one of the reasons it can stop at any angle. I like this. It's got a shiny Surface logo at the back here as well. The stand also hides a micro SD card reader underneath here and also has a 8 megapixel camera at the top here at the back. On the sides at the top we have a power button, has a nice feel to it, which is followed by a volume up and volume down button. Then on the side here we have a USB-C port. Now this is interesting as on their webpage they don't give much detail on the capability of this USB-C port, at least it's not very evident. And this is also one of the most common questions we get on this. Can this take it? As in, can it take a charge? And the answer is yes, absolutely. The USB-C port can definitely be used to charge the device as long as the external charger powering it is approximately 45 watts or more. This does come with a 65 watt charger as standard, but you don't have to use it at all if you so desire. Of course, the USB-C port can also output to a compatible external display, so if you use it with a monitor which has a powered USB-C, you can just use one cable, connect this to the monitor and power it at the same time. If you're interested, you can check out this video, link will be somewhere here, which explains it a lot more in detail. You can also use this USB-C port to charge external devices should you need to, like a phone, etc., although you might not want to do that. We'll come to that in a bit. Which brings us to another common question: does it support Thunderbolt? And the answer is unfortunately this time no, the USB-C port does not support Thunderbolt, although it can transfer data up to approximately 10 gigs per second and output to up to two 4K displays running at 60 Hz and everything in between, so there's that. I think this provides a good amount of feature set for what you could do realistically with this device and Microsoft's intended audience. Below that we have a USB-A port. For this type of product, it's good to see Microsoft retain the USB port. Kudos were due. Followed by the Surface charging port. On the other side we have the standard 3.5mm headphone jack, and at the bottom we have the magnetic connector for the keyboard. A bit on the config of this particular device. This one has a Ice Lake i5 with 8 gigs of LPDDR4 RAM running at 3733 MHz. Has 256 gigs of storage, uses a Toshiba BG4 NVMe SSD, which has respectable reads and writes. Not the best in the class, but it's definitely above average. And that leads us to another common question: is the storage user replaceable on Surface Pro 7? And the answer is a big fat no. That privilege only goes to the owners of Surface Pro 7 Plus. So again, just to be clear, you cannot replace the storage on Surface Pro 7 models, only on Surface Pro 7 Plus. Why? Well, your guess is as good as mine here. No, hear me out. From what I understand, they are targeting Surface Pro 7 Plus for business users, at least that's how I see it here, who actually needs the flexibility, and the Surface Pro 7 lineup is for retail customers because we don't need the flexibility. Hang on. Looking at the front, the first thing you notice is this subscribe button, and it's set somewhere far away. A unicorn poops out a gold nugget every time a viewer clicks on it. But if you look at the front again, this time you will notice the big bezels, big for 2021 that is. Okay, it's not the sleekest looking device from the front, but in my view they are not that bad. Plus, they serve a practical purpose of letting you hold the tablet comfortably without touching the display area. I feel there is something to be said about that, and they are evenly sized, at least on all four sides. I don't mind them. At the top, on the front, we also have the two microphones plus a 5 megapixel front camera. This camera and the one at the back can both do 1080p video, which are fine without being exceptional. They are surprisingly better than the webcams you will find on some of the more expensive laptops. At the sides on the front, we also have the ports for the speakers. It does have Dolby Audio, so here you go, have a listen of this. For what it's worth, they are fairly unremarkable. They will do the job for when you are in a call, etc., but are below average in my view. Just don't use it to enjoy multimedia content on it and you'll be fine. Microphones are okay as well. They do the job well enough. Does catch your voice relatively cleanly even when you are quite a bit away from the tablet, but it can struggle with a busier background. It's also got the Windows Hello camera at the front, which in my experience has been quite nice. It's quite a seamless experience and a nice way to log into a device. As you can see, the color on this one is platinum. It comes in black as well, but me personally, I will go with platinum, as black will show the scratches very easily and this will scratch. Moving over to the keyboard, it snaps magnetically to the tablet, no effort at all. I have to give credit to Microsoft here for the implementation of this. Not every magnetic connection is this easy. Now, you also get a lot of questions on the keyboard and I will try to cover some of them here very quickly. Are they backlit? The answer is yes, they are. Can you control the brightness? Yes, absolutely. Is this typing experience similar to the laptop? Well, that depends on the quality of the keyboard on your existing laptop, which will ultimately be your reference for comparison. What I can say here is that it's much better than I expected. I also own a Dell XPS 2-in-1 7390, so this is what I compared it against, and strangely enough, it seems it has a bit more key travel than the ones on my laptop. Good or bad, I stress, depends on the preferences here. Also, as the chassis of the keyboard is not hard plastic, so expect a lot of flex in the keyboard. It's a deliberate design choice made by Microsoft for the primary reason of keeping it as lightweight as possible. Can you use it on your lap? Weirdly, this is quite a common question you get asked, and unfortunately the answer is, for most, it's going to be a much worse experience than using a laptop, as not only the keyboard is made up of softer material, you also need to use the kickstand to support the screen, which makes it very unstable for me, and I will guess will be the case for most of you. And lastly, the battery. Now, the mileage on the battery differs a lot based on who you ask. Okay, so the quoted battery life is 10.5 hours max for typical use, but the gray area here is that what qualifies as a typical use for Microsoft. Just as an example, a typical jogging session for my friend includes a 5k run, whereas a typical session for me is a quick 5 or 10 meter runs to the fridge in the back. Mind you, it becomes more difficult if I have to climb the stairs. So here's the result of the two tests of the several I did, and I was trying to keep them realistic, so nothing extreme here. In one test, I tried to use it for some remoting for my work. Did some very light browsing using the default Edge browser, as Chrome is a known resource hog, along with some online meetings lasting around 60 minutes in total, and it went from 100% to 5 in just over 4 hours 40 minutes or so. In another instance, I was using it to just browse web using the default Edge browser, listening to some music, and around 40 minutes of video in total, and it lasted just about 6 hours. All of this on a stable full strength wireless connection. So I never reached 10.5 hours or anywhere close to that, but that's expected, as I was running Windows Enterprise on it. Rather than Windows 10 Home, it comes with as default, which means it's running many more processes and services in the background than you would have running on a device with Windows 10 Home Edition. I tested it with Windows 10 Enterprise Edition, as that's the version of the OS I would normally use on my Windows devices. I did test it with Windows 10 Home Edition as well before updating it, and the max I got was 6.5 hours for the first test and around 7.5 hours for the second test. The key here to understand is that it all depends on the type of application and services you're using. So overall it's good, but you will struggle to hit the 10.5 hours max which Microsoft quotes on their website. Lastly, the most important question: what is the best config to buy? Well, that depends on what you plan to do with it. My view is this, and again, this is just my view. For what it is intended for, anything over i5 is overkill, and given it supports micro SD card, I will probably go with the platinum colored i5 with 8 gigs or arguably 16 gigs of RAM and 256 storage option. My rationale for this is that if you need an i7, then you are most probably looking to run some CPU heavy applications or services on it, and if so, you can't be running it on a battery for more than 2-3 hours anyway. At that point, you might as well buy a laptop with a bigger battery. So in my personal view, buy it as long as your intention is to use it as a tablet primarily. That is, you're looking to use it as a tablet for 70 to 80% of the time and are not expecting it to last more than 6 hours max when doing anything meaningful on it. By the way, my mate who spammed me and my life for 2 days straight with questions on Surface, well, he ended up buying a desktop. Okay, so I encouraged him to get one. Why? Well, he's not traveling anywhere anytime soon with that, is he? Plus he owns a Chromebook already. Alrighty then, let me end the video right here. Hopefully you liked this short and sweet review of Surface Pro 7. If you did, please click the like and subscribe button, and I shall see you fine folks in the next one. Cheers.